This episode of Everyman's Arsenal podcast is proudly sponsored by Nocturn Industries. Introducing the Daisho Bridge, seamlessly connect two night vision monocles to create a powerful dual tube setup. And don't miss out on the Chimera, Nocturn's panoramic night vision goggles. Upgrade your night vision game at nocturnindustries.com and use discount code TLDCO. Nocturn Industries, lighting the night for Everyman's Arsenal. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Everyman's Arsenal podcast, a podcast dedicated to learning more about the people behind the products that you might see on the Thin Line Defense Co. YouTube channel. And I'm excited to have our sponsor on, Jeff, the CEO of Nocturn Industries. Jeff, welcome
Hello.
aboard. Good to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you for inviting us to be on.
Yeah, it's always fun for me to find new folks that I haven't met to come on to the podcast. A lot of this, I don't know if you've had any interaction with Walsh. He's the guy that's really been running the ship of Thin Line Defense. But a lot of these folks he has more interaction with than I do, and so it's always good for me to kind of put a face to the name and ask some questions and learn more about the folks.
Yeah, we had some interactions and we went back and forth, and we met each other at SHOT Show, and I believe he interviewed Nick, who's my counterpart. He's the president of the company and co-owner. Him and I are 50-50 owners of the company. We're
Nice.
also the designers, and the we're the brains behind all the systems.
Yeah. So for those that people that have seen the SHOT Show content, have seen Nick, Walsh has talked about you guys before on our live chats. But for those that don't know about Nocturne, don't know about you, do you mind sharing a little bit about your background and kind of what got you into the night vision world?
Uh, it's yes. I think all of this started as a hobby.
Okay.
So no like professional background in night vision, which allows us to come at this from a different viewpoint than a lot of other people. So we got into this because we care about it and it's a passion of ours, um, not because it was something that our lives depended on, or like gear or equipment we were introduced to because of our jobs. Um, and you know, we originally got introduced to it through playing airsoft, which is becoming more and more of a common thing I've seen people talking about, and something that is a gateway drug, if you will, to
Mm-hmm.
the firearms and the night vision industries and the defense industries. So there's a lot of people who naysay against like airsoft because a lot of people kind of go a little over the top with it. But like in the milsim environment, we go to milsim events and do all that kind of stuff. But we also frequent the range and do a bit of training ourselves for self-defense and just to be competent shooters because we're um, firearms enthusiasts and believers in the Second Amendment and the
Yeah.
Constitution and all the reasons that the United States was founded.
Right.
Um, so, and I've been around firearms my entire life. Nick, on the other hand, was not, but he got introduced to it through airsoft. I was already a firearms enthusiast and someone who was always around guns growing up, and it was part of life, hunting and fishing and all that. And then when we met, we actually met at an airsoft event.
Hmm.
So that kind of is what seeded the relationship that we have now as business partners. And if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here where we are now.
Yeah.
So, and then previously I was an engineer at SIG Sauer as well. So
Oh,
that,
okay.
I got some experience on the firearm side as far as design and engineering through that company.
Yeah, I'm curious, if with Nick not being kind of a firearms guy,
He
um,
is now. He wasn't
yeah,
a
yeah,
long time.
but when initially meeting him, was there any like consternation or this guy doesn't know what he's talking about because he's not a gun guy? Sometimes there's that weird relationship between gun owners and non-gun owners when they initially meet, and I'm just curious if you had some type of similar interaction with Nick when you first met him.
In this case, no, because when it comes to airsoft, which is how we met, um, you're handling replica firearms
Yeah.
essentially. They're one-to-one replicas. They feel and look the same. You handle them the same way. Your muscle memory and all the training you get, it all transfers over into the real firearms world. So naturally, he was already interested. He plays video games and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
so there was no real issue there at all whatsoever. But I understand exactly what you're talking about. I've spoken to plenty of people who are not fans of firearms, and
Yeah.
most people I find that come from that side of things, it's just that they're not aware or haven't been educated on it or don't understand it. So there's a lot of fear involved. Fear
Hmm.
stems from not understanding.
Yeah. I love
Um,
that you said that, like, there's a lack of understanding and there's a fear there, and it seems like, education is an easy way to kind of fix that.
Darkness is scary to people because they can't see in it. They don't know
Hmm.
what's there. They don't understand it. Um, you know, uh, since I have night vision and I use it a lot, I am way less afraid of the dark than I used to be. You know, you, it's just you know n- just not knowing what's there. That's
Yeah.
all. The unknown. That's the right thing I'm thinking of. Is the unknown is really what is scary to people and creates fear. And when
Yeah.
it comes to firearms, if you don't know it well or don't understand it, other than what you see on TV or what others have told you, then you won't be aware that the Second Amendment community is actually a very welcoming, warm, friendly, family oriented community that's all about preserving each other and ourselves
Hmm.
and our ability to be independent and also be a strong community too. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of good relationships and uh, everyone's always ready to help each other when it comes to that community.
Yeah. And I love that. It seems like you have the firearms community, but then a much smaller shoot off of that, if you will, is the night vision owner community. And I think it's either the price tag or the lack of any real knowledge when it comes to night vision, tends to lead people away from night vision. I'm curious if you have seen that, being the owner of a night vision company now, or a product design company and a product producing company. Do you see similar instances as you're trying to educate people on the benefits of night vision?
Absolutely. Um, People shy away from night vision. They're always curious and interested, but the predetermined notion is always, "Oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford that." Or, in a lot of cases, not as much now, but um, you hear, "Oh, I didn't even know that was legal to buy."
Mm, yeah.
Just not even knowing that it's completely legal. It's less restricted than firearms. It's firearms. You have to go through this huge background check and
Hmm.
make sure that you're not a felon or that you have any kind of psychological disorders that could prevent you from owning a firearm or anything like that or cause harm to other people. And um, with night vision, it's not a weapon. It's you just can't be a foreigner because it's protected technology. Um, so you have to be a U.S. citizen. But there's um, there's no it's just not as a restricted thing. That's all.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. They're like, "Oh, that's a military, thing. I thought
Right.
only the military could own that." No, no, it's all it is a magic tube that makes it possible to see in darkness. That's all. It's a flashlight without the light.
Right. Well, and that's it's funny that you bring that up because we have a member of our team, Joe, he's very budget minded, budget conscious, and kind of the running joke when we've been telling him, like, you need to get night vision. He always says something to the effect of, I have night vision. I'll just tape a flashlight to my head or to my helmet or something like that." And I don't. I'm wondering. You just said the fact that a lot of people think, well, this is military only. Um, you know, but you had mentioned the use of it in milsim or airsoft world. What other things are you seeing in your world of general civilians, non-military folks, coming out and buying them? Like, what are they using them for if it's not milsim or military related?
Well, let me jump back really quick on the price thing, and then I'll answer
Sure, sure,
that.
sure. Yeah.
So Have found that a lot of people shy away from it because it is expensive. I usually counter it with, well, how much is that rifle and how much is everything on that rifle? And how many of those rifles do you have in your safe at home? Usually, there's quite a bit. And you put, let's say, even if you're on a budget rifle, right? Let's say you have a
Mhm.
$700 rifle, all the way up to a $3,000 rifle. And then you put a $200 to $1,000 optic on it, or
Yeah.
more if it's a long range optic. And then you have, a laser or a flashlight or whatever, different grips, and you put a brand new rail on, a rail that costs $400 because you wanted a Daniel Defense rail or whatever, right? All of a sudden, you have a $3,000 to $5,000 rifle. Well, a monocular, a single eye pair of night vision, can cost you $2,500 to $3,500,
Yeah.
which is right in the middle of what most people are spending on a single decent setup for a rifle.
Yeah.
So it's well within the range of people to purchase. And if they want binoculars, they can upgrade to a binocular later. They can start out with a monocular, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it's definitely attainable. I mean, we just like a lot of other companies, we use a firm, which is a way to purchase it on like a loan, essentially. We also have dealers that do the same thing that have different purchasing programs, so you can pay as you go too. Uh, it's you can get used stuff. You can get into this in various different ways, and it's not as cost prohibitive as people think.
Right.
Um, Now, to answer your other question, um, it's uh, actually. Do you want to reiterate it? I want to make sure I answer
Sure.
it right.
Yeah. So this idea that night vision is only for, I'll change it a little bit, only for military or only for law enforcement or only for folks going out to milsim. I'm curious the people that are purchasing your products, if you
Oh,
know, if you're willing to share, uh, if they're not military or they're not law enforcement, what are they using night vision for?
hiking.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a big one. Stargazing. People are starting to use these for looking at and photographing different celestial bodies. So you can look at different planets. You can see in spectrums of light that you can't see with the naked eye, so you can see a lot more.
Hmm.
Um, it amplifies the light, so you can see nebula better. There's people posting photos online using doing photography of celestial bodies using night vision, and they're quite impressive. They're some beautiful photography. There's a lot in the night sky that you can see, and the setup is not very expensive. You can get into it for all things considered for a pretty decent budget, and
Yeah.
be able to take professional grade photos of the night sky. Um, you can take your girlfriend out on a date, going stargazing. There are many, many, many shooting stars every single night when you got a pair of night vision.
Hmm.
Um, and it's easy to, search and rescue is one,
Hmm.
home defense. Uh, Hiking, when I mentioned that, I'm talking about, if you're going on a sunrise hike or a sunset hike, when the sun goes down, you can see way, way, way better with a pair of night
Yeah.
vision than you can with a flashlight.
Yeah.
Uh, Boating, it's way better on a boat with a pair of night vision than any amount of light will ever be.
Hmm.
You can see like it's daytime and you can see everything. Um, so that's a really big one for anyone that's out there boating and they're investing on digital cameras or anything for the boats. I implore you to rent a pair of night vision and go out boating, and then you probably will buy a pair of night vision, especially if it's something you do regularly.
Yeah.
Um, you can, well, some people fly with them, but there's a little
Right.
more things involved
Training
with
it.
that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, you can go if you like to go four wheeling or ATVing or anything like that. Or off-roading, you can see way better with a pair of night vision than you can with your just your regular headlight.
Yeah.
Now, headlights are important for safety so others can see you.
Right.
But if you're out on your own property or you're out in the middle of the desert or alone or wherever, and you know there's really nobody else out there, uh, wearing a pair of night vision allows you to see way better,
Hmm.
especially on a night where there's a lot of moonlight.
Yeah. Well, I love that it's not just, I mean, it's very clear. This is not just a military or law enforcement device that anybody could really use this. And I'm curious. I want to go back a little bit to something that you had mentioned when you talked about, if you were to piece out a rifle build and compare that to the price of night vision. um, you guys have we Walsh and I have talked about this before. You had talked about like buying a monocular, but you guys have a bridge. So if you wanted to upgrade to duals later on, you could just buy the bridge and buy another monocular. And so it's a instead of having to buy an entirely new device, you can just kind of piecemeal upgrade, right?
This guy right here.
Yeah.
So this is called the die show. Um, and what it does is it takes a Tonto. Grab one of these here. So this is our Tonto monocular. Don't
Hmm.
feel that. And our battery cap here is our on and off switch. But you take the battery cap off, and instead of the battery that goes in here, you take the die show, and there's a plate here. It's a retaining plate, and then you have this rod.
Mm.
So you slide these together like this,
Hmm.
and you'll have a washer right here in the back,
Yeah.
and then the plate will go on and a screw to tighten that down. And now you have an articulating
That is so
bino.
cool.
So it works just like all the other binos out there. You got two, one on each side, and then
Yeah.
you'll just that will turn it on, and
Okay.
that will turn it off.
And I don't know the answer to this question. So if you're like, man, Jason's a moron for asking this, I'm not going to be upset. But are there other? I've never seen something like that, but I'm very ignorant in the night vision world. Are there other companies that are doing stuff like that? That seems very innovative.
So we're not the first to do a bridged system that adapts a monocular over to a binocular.
Okay.
So the Mod 3B from AB Night Vision that I recall is the first. There may be others, but um, so that is a fixed bridge system though, which means this articulation that takes place. I'll show
Hmm.
you a bino. So this is not possible. It's stuck in this
Okay.
configuration, and you can adjust it left and right for
Hmm.
your IPD distance, but that's it. But the way that works is there's a button and you detach it and it slides off, and then you have a battery pack that will essentially slide on and attach. So imagine this
Okay.
portion is a battery pack that attaches on. It has a power
Okay.
switch on it and everything. In our case, it's monolithic, one piece. So the
Hmm.
battery pack stays attached, and you're actually detaching the battery cap from here
Mm.
and putting it on here, and you're putting your battery in the center, and then it powers both sides.
Okay.
And then the other battery pack, they're lanyarded on. I have it removed here,
Yeah.
but you just take the other one off and put it in your pack and store it. You
Okay.
can also run it on this bridge
Okay.
as your actual mount, so that
Yeah.
your second one, when you're sharing it with somebody, you just need like a PVS 14J arm or whatever kind of arm you want for it. But this will still turn on and off when you rotate it and all that. And that other fixed bridge can be collimated and it will remain collimated, just like this. This is can be attached and collimated. And collimation is when you align the images. It's very
Okay.
important when you're bridging two monoculars. A lot of people have bridged PVS 14s and they don't get them collimated and they don't realize it. Uh, and that can cause headaches, fatigue of the eyes. You essentially are looking at two different directions and you're
Right.
seeing double vision. Your eyes will correct for it, but your brain and your eyes are constantly straining to do that. So over
Okay.
time, it will cause fatigue. And if it's
Interesting.
really bad, it can cause a headache right away.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of the other bridge systems out there that are for PVS 14s, and they'll also work on here, it's the same mount as a 14. Um, they don't hold collimation well. So when you detach them, reattach them, they don't exactly go back to right where they were.
Yeah.
So ours is unique in the sense that as an articulating bridge, it will hold collimation as many times you take this off and put it back on. The only
Hmm.
caveat is the left and the right have to stay segregated.
Okay.
That's all.
Now, one of the things that I remember Nick talking about when we met him at SHOT Show, and you kind of talked a little bit about it when you were showing the bridge. You'd used the word. I think you said ruggedized. Is that the word that you used?
Um,
I don't
for
remember exactly.
for this
Just
item,
talking about, yeah, like how robust it is, and one of the things I remember Nick talking about was you guys have, if I remember correctly, a polymer. You guys have a polymer version and you have an aluminum version.
For our dedicated binos, yes.
Okay.
For
Okay.
this, so this bridge is just polymer.
Okay.
It's actually additive manufactured, and you're seeing this a lot more. Those who use multi-jet fusion and have seen it and are familiar with it, as soon as you see a product that's made in multi-jet fusion, you know immediately. And we're all aware of how good of a product it is. So when people say, "Oh, 3D printed," a lot of people
Yeah.
think, "Oh, it's 3D printed. It's not very strong. It doesn't perform well. It doesn't have good surface quality." With multi-jet fusion, that's not true. It's a probably the best 3D printed polymer you could use,
Okay.
and it performs quite well. It's not as good as injection molded. It's as
Sure.
good as some injection molded polymers, but there are
Hmm.
injection molded polymers that are as strong as metal, like aluminum. Um,
Hmm.
and but it does quite a good job if you use it in the correct applications. And the same thing for our monocular. So this is additive manufactured with multi-jet fusion. A lot of products are coming out now that have either multi-jet fusion components or
Hmm.
are completely made of multi-jet fusion components. A lot of companies that are doing like grips and different attachments for rifles. I've even seen rifle components, parts of
Yeah.
firearms that are multi-jet fusion. Uh, the Flux Raider, that was one.
Hmm.
Um, but we are moving to injection molded on most of our products. This included, we'll move to injection molded, but it's for production volume. It's
Okay.
increasing quality, but it also increases the volume in which we can produce these, and it decreases the cost, which means we can lower the price of the product and become more
That's awesome.
competitive as well.
And are you concerned at all with? I know you said some injection molding is as strong as some of the metals. So with the process that you guys are switching to, are you worried about durability at all?
No, and durability is actually increasing significantly.
Okay.
We're already testing beyond the industry standard for night vision. The
Hmm.
standard is uh, roughly 4 feet dropped onto a 2-inch thick platform of plywood.
Okay.
There are other testing setups. It all usually depends on the specification for the product
Hmm.
or the contract that the product is being developed for. Usually, it's developed for military first and then released as a commercial product later. Um, a lot of people reference 810G or 810H. That is just a guide of how to perform tests. It doesn't actually give you, in some cases, it gives you the metrics of what the test has to be performed to, but oftentimes it just tells you how to perform the test.
Okay.
The specification of what the product actually has to do to meet performance requirements will outline the minimum requirements. So, for example, submersion. Submersion is on 810H or G. H is just the next revision of it. It's the most current, but most people list G because that's just the revision they have. Um, it essentially tells you how to do a submersion test and the process and the procedures to do it. It doesn't tell you necessarily how deep you need to submerge it and for how long. It can tell you this is the basic, like, if you don't have a spec, this is what you should test to.
Yeah.
Not always. Um, I'm, I'm generalizing to cover kind of
Sure.
the broad
Yeah.
scope of everything. Um, but the current industry standard is 66 feet for 2 hours at least. We list IP68 plus. The plus is kind of a made up thing. We just put that in there because it exceeds IP68. IP68 is lower than that 66 feet for 2 hour threshold. It's
Okay.
like way lower. You're talking like a meter or a meter and a half
Okay.
for I think an hour or two. I don't remember exactly what it is. I'd have to pull it up. I read way too many documents, but
Yeah.
um, so it's nowhere near as stringent as what the military requirements typically have been. 66 feet for 2 hours is pretty deep.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
divers are not going that deep. If you can do that, it's waterproof.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, that's just one example
Sure.
of some of the performance requirements. But our drop testing is performed to a firearm standard. So that's my background. And when we develop our products, we base it on what is actually realistic. What would this product experience in real life use, and what does it
Yeah.
need to handle for the end user to be able to rely on these products? So
Yeah.
instead of testing at a 4 foot drop, which is from the chest to the
Hmm.
floor, on plywood, which is a common material for a floor, but it is not the worst case. The worst case is concrete, and
Hmm.
that's what the firearm rough handling test is on concrete, and that's a five. We do 5.5 feet, which is like the average height of a
Yeah.
human being with a helmet on and putting the night vision on the map. So 5.5 to 6 feet. So we do 5.5 feet on concrete, and then uh, usually the test is 3 devices, 28 drops total across all 3 devices,
Okay.
and the last device has to make it to the end. That can change depending on, again, the contract and how the spec's written, et
Sure.
cetera. We do 6 drops, 1 drop per orientation. We do 6 orientations. So top, bottom, left, right, front, back.
Yeah.
Um, and on the firearm side of things, that's basically, it just means that any damage has to be uh, so that it doesn't pose any kind of risk of, or hazard to the end user,
Hmm.
and it is still functioning. In
Okay.
the night vision world, that won't suffice. You need to make sure that it still functions, and of course, it can't pose a risk to the end user. But if you split the housing open, well, now you can get water and stuff inside, and your
Sure.
optical alignment can get messed up and all that. So you could chip little pieces off or something like that. But if the integrity of the housing is compromised, then that's a failure.
Yeah. I know one of the things that we talk about on our channel early on, Joe did some torture testing of an Olight flashlight that they sent us. And he ended with, I think it was I know the battery was inside of it. I think it was turned on, but he ended up shooting it with steel shot, put a hole right through the flashlight, and it still worked. The only thing that broke was the mounting mechanism. And so he ended up just JB welding it together, and he had this weapon mounted flashlight with holes in it that was just, kind of a showpiece at that point, that this thing still worked. So I get like the fun of seeing a product that you're kind of on the edge of, like, man, I hope I can destroy this thing so that I can maybe make it better or something like that. But in our case, it was, I really hope we destroy this thing, and then, oh wow, we shot it with steel shot and it didn't
Yeah,
die.
what's it take to get there? Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean,
Yeah.
like this stuff isn't indestructible. People talk about
Sure.
durability, and look, there's a trade off. You got weight and you've got durability. Our
Hmm.
goal is to bring both of those down. Well, sorry, the durability up, but the weight
Yeah.
down, but essentially moving the goalpost further,
Right.
um, but also not make it too expensive. And
Yeah.
you don't want to make it so cheap that it's undervalued either.
Yeah.
But you need to make a product that for us is right in the middle for cost,
Hmm.
but is um, at the high end for durability
Yeah.
and reliability. And you blend that all up with good service,
Hmm.
and we have a lifetime warranty to back up all our products. So if for some
Oh,
reason
okay.
they ever do break, because they do break, it's not, if you run over this with a truck,
Yeah.
it's going to break. If you run over this with a truck, it's probably going to survive. This is made of aluminum. And
Okay.
we've already run this over with vehicles, and it was perfectly fine. We dropped this
Okay.
from 100 feet in the air with a drone, powered on, everything worked fine. So it, there's different levels of durability,
Yeah.
but of course, this costs more money because it's machined out of aluminum.
Right.
Um, Now, with 3D printing, this will cost more than an injection molded one if you're moving it in enough volume to cover the cost of the tool. So
Right.
this is an injection molded system. This is our new katana that's coming out. This one is lighter than the original katana. It's a stronger material because it's going to an injection mold and we've done our research to find the best material we can for this.
Okay.
Um, but it also costs less per unit to produce. So we're actually lowering the price by about $300.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're getting a more
In the
durable
scope
product.
of night vision, that's not a ton, but it is
Yeah.
enough to buy a battery pack or something like
Right.
that.
Well, and it's interesting because, we've talked a lot about this. We've touched at least on it, of, comparing the price of night vision to a person buying a gun that they then add stuff onto. And I think a lot of people, myself included, you look at night vision and you see this price tag of, well, I need a helmet to hold it, or some type of harness. I need the device itself. I need the proper mount for it. Um, and so they're looking at, man, I got to drop. I'm gonna pull a number out of my butt, $5,000 on this whole setup. And a lot of people, I think, they look at that and they think that's I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that kind of investment. Um, and I'm curious, we have this adage of crawl, walk, run. Walsh talked a lot about it when he was practicing drawing from the holster. He ended up just going into his backyard and drew from the holster 5,000 times until with a red dot, and until he was able to see a clear sight picture. Is there something similar in the night vision world where you can say, well, do this first, crawl. Then if you like that, you can move to this other thing, walk, and then finally run. um, is there something similar to that in the night vision world?
Yes, yes, there is. I mean, a lot of people say buy once, cry once, which is valid depending
Yeah.
on what it is. So I would not say buy a Gen 1 pair of night vision, then Gen 2, then Gen 3. Um, it is not worth buying $150 to $500 pair of Gen 1 night vision. I did that when I first started. It was useless.
Hmm.
It really is not useful. Um, You need a gigantic illuminator to use it. Without an illuminator, even in moderate illumination, they're not very good, and they fisheye terribly. It's hard to identify if you're using it for any kind of defense situation. It's better than nothing,
Yeah.
but is it really? Because you can't really
Well,
identify what you're shooting at. If someone's shooting at you, you don't like
right.
it. You can make mistakes. If you're going to do it right. That said, though, Gen 2 Plus, modern Gen 2 Plus, um, older Gen 2 and Gen 2 Plus systems are okay. They're a good start. But again, you're talking about in the realm of night vision, marginal increases in cost for a
Okay.
huge increase in performance. So modern Gen 2 Plus versus like old PVS 5s or something. We started on PVS 5s. They work quite well, but they're very old. And for the time when they were made, they were way ahead of their time. They worked fantastically. Um, and they're still viable. They're still useful now. But you can easily get into Gen 2 Plus night vision that perform quite well and not very far away from Gen 3, which in many cases you can't even tell the difference right now. You put Gen
Okay.
3 and Gen 2 Plus right next to each other, and you will not be able to tell the difference until you go into a basement with no illumination,
Right.
except for maybe like a, some kind of thing plugged in the wall, or like a
Right.
TV in your basement that has a little sensor on it, and that's your only illumination, or like some light coming in from a window from a street light.
Hmm.
Um, there you'll see a difference.
Okay.
Um, and there's a lot of convolution that happens. People mix up a lot of stuff. Like people talk about photonics, and then they talk about these Chinese systems like NMDT for the image tube, at least. L3, Lbit. Those are your major
Yeah.
common household household names for night vision.
Yeah.
Image tubes, which is just this part.
Okay.
Um, the That's what does all the magic. The housing powers it and gives you all your features. Uh, the tube itself does auto brightness control, the actual amplification and production of an image,
Hmm.
um, and auto gating if it has it, and gain control. It enables gain control if the tube is capable of doing it. But the system itself provides the power and provides the the housing provides the power, provides the input to control the gain level.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as the tube concerned, that's it. The rest is how the controls are oriented and situated on the system, what kind of battery you're using, what the weight of the system is, minus the tube is kind of the fixed point for weight. Um, and, you know, a low battery indicator or IR illuminator indicator, all that other stuff.
Right.
Or if it's like a fusion system with thermal overlaid and stuff like that, if it's got a thermal sensor on it. Um, and then you have your lenses, which are your, you know, add to the performance of the image tube. They can enhance or deplete that performance.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm digressing right now. Uh, Sorry.
Okay.
I told
Yeah.
you
So,
I
um,
can. talked quite a bit about this stuff for a long time. But uh,
So it sounds like when you were talking like this whole crawl, walk, run, you could find some good Gen 2 plus at maybe a decent price to kind of get your foot in the door. One of the
yeah,
things that I saw on your website, I think there was only one event, but you guys do equipment rentals. You could rent your product if there's classes or something that you guys have going on. Um, do you find that a lot of the classes that you guys are attending or you have products for, a lot of folks are just renting their device for that particular class or event?
yes. So we actually do some stuff with Haley Strategic Partners.
Okay.
So we're one of their vendors for doing rentals at some of their events. We do some other local events that go on, and we travel around to different events we get invited to, and then we'll sponsor those events and we'll provide rentals for those. So anytime there's an event coming up, we'll announce it on our page, like on Instagram,
Yeah.
or the event runner will announce that we'll be providing rentals, and then we'll create a page people can go to rent.
Okay.
We don't just do rentals when someone wants to rent something. Some other
Right.
companies do. I think Night Vision Inc. is one of them that you can purchase rentals from. Um, and there's a couple others too. But uh, so for us, like we sponsor American Milsim,
Hmm.
so we often offer rentals to those events. Not all of them, but most of them. Any that we're attending, we always have rentals for. Uh, we do some of the we do Naughty After Dark. We do East Coast Night Shoot,
Okay.
Snag Ops, which is a local event runner up here. We're doing some work with Sig Sauer.
Yeah.
Uh, with they have some night classes they have, and we're gonna potentially be offering. Sorry, they have night competitions. We'll be potentially offering IV for that. We partner
Okay.
with a local range here. Um, every a couple times a year, they'll do events,
Yeah.
and we'll rent out night vision. So it all depends on the event. But if someone was interested in trying stuff out and they're local to us,
Yeah.
they're welcome to come. We're in New Hampshire, Southern New Hampshire. They're welcome to come by and try stuff out. We let people come by here. We're actually moving to a much larger facility in about 2 months, and we're going to have a storefront so people can
Okay.
actually come and visit us. We're going to have a really nice display. We're going to have a huge, like a gear emporium essentially, or
Okay.
like a place where you can go procure high end gear,
Yeah.
specifically chest rig, helmet, headborne type
Sure.
equipment that you can't find in store anywhere else other
Well, that'll
than
be
the
awesome.
store online. And of course our night vision and
Yeah.
different lasers and hearing protection, different helmet options, things like that, so people can set up their setup or kind of window shop it, and then
Right.
they know what they want to buy and they can go out and do it.
Do you
Um,
guys do you guys keep a set amount of products then that are just your rental devices?
um, yeah, so right now we typically rent out our monocular, which is the Tonto, which you
Mhm.
showed before. We just built a couple binos up, so we're going to start renting binos.
Okay.
Eventually, we'll probably rent out one of our panos just so
Sure.
people can try those out.
Right.
Um, it's a good opportunity for us to kind of market our product to people, and to get them hands on. And we don't necessarily care if they buy, like, we care if they buy our product, but we want them
Yeah.
to get introduced to night vision in a way where they're able to ask questions. We're there, we're present, and at a lot of these events, we're always open for people to reach out
Yeah.
and talk to us. I personally like to inform people and educate them. Um,
Right.
I get pretty busy, so sometimes they have to wait a little, but I do try to get involved. Um, but it's um, renting is a good way for people to experience it and to kind of that crawl walk run thing. Like you,
Sure.
a great way to see, okay, do I want this?
Yeah.
Go try it. You're probably
Right.
going to want it if you're interested.
Yeah.
Night vision is
Yeah.
really cool. But starting out with a monocular is a good first step. Don't
Okay.
cheap out because night vision is one of those things where you're getting what you pay for.
Sure.
I mentioned about devaluing your product by having it be too cheap. That doesn't just go to how, marking up your product to make it look like it's better than it is. It's
Right.
about having quality components that can be relied on and can be sourced in the time of crisis where we can readily have these things available so we can continue to service the products.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
it's so you have to make sure you put the best um, components into the product when you're developing
Sure.
it. Um, and so when you're buying cheaper systems, like if you're buying some kind of Chinese system or you're going on a budget, or even if it's a 3D printed system, make sure it's being done by a company who knows what they're doing, and has good customer service, has a good warranty, and do a lot of research into what the product is that you're
Yeah.
buying. Don't always rely on the hearsay of other, customers
Yeah.
like or one particular person or two or three people. Get the input from a wide variety of people.
Hmm.
Really learn about this stuff. Talk to a couple different vendors, a couple different dealers to find out what the truth is, because there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings. A lot of people who are biased who just want to sell a product.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have uh, a confirmation bias, that they want to be confirmed in their own purchase and their loan
Sure.
investment that what
Sure.
they did
Absolutely.
was the best thing they could do.
Yeah.
Um, because chances are there's probably something better out there. There's better products. We want to have the best products,
Yeah.
but there are better products than ours in certain aspects, and ours are better than others in certain aspects. So I
Well.
usually, when I talk to people, tell them buy what you think is the best for you based
Hmm.
on your needs and your budget. And I understand budget is really important.
Yeah.
I'm not someone that comes from a wealthy background by any means whatsoever, so I understand the value of the dollar. Um, and all of our business has been started from the ground up with nothing, no loans, nothing. We did this out of pocket and from passion, and there was a lot of hard work and a lot of 100 to 120-hour weeks. It's it, so yeah. Anyway, what I just basically mean is do your research and become knowledgeable before you make an investment this big.
Yeah. And I'll
Um,
say one of the things that Walsh has shared in his interactions with you guys, and something that I've seen, as I tease Walsh a lot because his first PVS 14 that he bought, he just kind of, I think he was probably on Reddit. That's where he spends a lot of time, and bought some stuff, and it wasn't working. And so he ended up calling TNVC. That's where he bought some of the stuff from, and talked to this guy Will. And Will, the customer service was just great. Will was like, basically like, no, you're a moron. You bought the wrong whatever. You needed to buy this one. And so he kind of fixed Walsh up. But Walsh's interaction with you guys has been all super positive. Like, I think it would be fair to say, I think Walsh would agree, and I think you would agree, if someone really is interested, don't be afraid to call and ask questions and figure out what, okay, this is what I want to do. What should I get? Um, you just don't seem like the type of guy, and Walsh, I think would agree that you're going to be like, oh, you got to buy is your panos are called the Chimeras, right? Like, yeah, this is what you got to do. This is what's right for you. I think it's important
yeah,
for
the most
folks to,
expensive product that
yeah,
we
most
offer.
expensive product. I think it's important for people to feel comfortable asking questions if they don't know. And again, the whole point of us talking is a lot of people are, I think, scared might be too strong of a word, but they don't really understand the night vision world. And it's not as scary. It's not um, as mysterious as people make it out to seem if you're willing to ask the questions.
Yep, and to listen. Well, see, you as someone who does, not you, but the
Yeah,
customer
yeah,
or the potential customer or end user, um, can't sort out the truth from the falsehoods because they don't have the knowledge already to know what's true and what's not, and to
right.
know who to trust and who not to trust. And it sucks because there's people in this industry who have put forth false information, or
Hmm.
whether knowingly or unknowingly have done that. I'm sure there's times I've said things that ended up being not true. And
Sure.
it's important to, recognize them, own up to it, and to tell, to people who follow you or listen to you or trust in your judgment and your information, if something that you've put out there is correct or incorrect.
Hmm.
We've seen a lot of, from the beginning till now, we've seen this like ebb and flow of like false information, then corrective action, false information, corrective action. And I have come to trust certain people in this industry with being very knowledgeable, and they have the information to back it up and their resources and sources to back it up.
Yeah.
A really good source of information for anyone that wants to learn about night vision is to go to DARQ, DARQ, formerly known as Goonan Gear. Joe is a very knowledgeable guy. He knows what he's talking about. He cares about his customers. He's one of our dealers too. Um, but the knowledge that he has on his website for anyone to learn, go there and learn, is broken down into layman's terms, and he describes things in very simple terms so that people can understand exactly what all these things mean, like EBI,
Right.
FOM, SNR, all these different terms and what they mean and how they affect the night vision device and what you are going to experience as an end user looking through that device and what to
Mm.
expect. So when you see the image tube in a low light environment is really grainy and fuzzy, there's nothing wrong with your tube. It's
Yeah.
your signal to noise ratio. It's just, some tubes are noisier than other tubes.
Right.
Um, and what that is, why is it grainy? Why is it like, little sparkles and
Yeah.
stuff like it looks like there's snow or fuzz? It's just noise. It's electrons, extra photons. Um, but you can find out through research what all of these things are. Why is figure of merit, which is FOM, why is that so important? I would love to do a 2 hour long piece on all of this stuff, and there's still stuff I'm learning. So I'm always open minded, and that's what everybody should do is be as open minded as they can. Because I argued with people online about how the sun can damage your device. Some people said, "Oh, just exposing it to sunlight, just opening a door to the sun coming in will damage it." No, that's not true at all. You can walk outside with your night vision on, and yes, it'll degrade the lifespan of the tube,
Yeah.
not to anything significant that you're going to recognize immediately by any means, and probably not within the time that you're going to use your device. Um, but it doesn't do any kind of significant permanent damage,
Hmm.
um,
Interesting.
at least immediately.
Yeah.
If you look at the sun, however, it will immediately damage your image too. So some people argue that sunlight just being exposed will damage it. Some people argue that it doesn't. Then you've got people who argue, oh, well, pointing your device at the sun with it turned off won't damage it. That is 100% false. We tested it on video and put it online, and we still have people arguing with us. Um, we found out what it is. Uh, I had it happen to me twice. The first time I thought that someone had left my device on in my vehicle and it was pointing at a light and
Mm.
it caused a blemish. Usually, sunlight blemishes, especially when you have them on your helmet pointed up during the
Yeah.
day, you get squiggles all over. Um, you can black box them, but they don't go away. They kind of fade a little bit, but they don't go away.
Okay.
Um, but for the most part, it's permanent. And what's happening is if your objective lens is set at infinity, it's focusing the sunlight like a magnifying
Mm.
glass burning ants. And if
Interesting.
you look
Okay.
through the eyepiece, we're talking about a device that's turned off, battery on and taken out, pointed at the sun. You can see the sun through the device,
Yeah.
looking at the eyepiece lens. You're not actually seeing the sun. What you're seeing is because it's the glow. There's a glow, and it's got a color to it, and it's not blue and it's not green. It's orange.
Hmm.
Um, it's burning the inside of the tube.
Okay.
If you turn the objective out away from infinity, it's not focusing that light, so you're not going to get the same effect.
Interesting.
Um, I still don't recommend that you expose it directly to the
Yeah.
sun. I'm talking about pointing directly at the sun.
Sure.
So day caps are important. If you're going to have your night vision on, you're going to be cool and run day nods so that when if
Yeah.
you go into a dark room, you can flip them down. I recommend having day caps on, um, and or have them flipped down like this, right, instead of up.
Right.
Again, this is also really the worst during the middle of the day when the sun's
Sure.
high in the sky. When it's on the horizon, it's not as bad. The sunlight's not as intense, but it's still bad.
Yeah.
Still not recommended to point your device at that. But just be mindful of where the sun is in the daytime. So
Yeah.
I know I'm digressing again, but
No, you're
um,
fine.
it's one of those things I argued with people online about. and
You
went and proved it. And then
yeah,
people still, most people were like, okay, that's all I needed to see.
right.
That settles that. But for others, they were diehard and they stuck to their guns with it, even though I presented the data to them. So you have to be careful
Yeah.
who you believe, because a lot of those people stuck to their guns all the way to the end, and
Yep.
they told hundreds of and thousands of people that it's okay, it's fine, it's not going to hurt them. And then at the end, we ended up finding a white paper from a documented white paper from a manufacturer of image tubes that elaborates on, yes, exposure directly to the sun will permanently damage the photocathode. Right
Yeah.
there. And it's like, this has been like this for 30 years and it hasn't changed. And I don't know how people think, oh, all these damaged tubes coming from the military, it's just laser burns. Well,
Yeah.
some other people did some YouTube videos and they pointed lasers directly at the image tubes and it didn't cause permanent damage.
Hmm.
It There's a lot of convoluted information, and I think it's important people do the right amount of research and
Yeah.
learn about this stuff, because one important thing for me is putting all that misinformation to bed.
Well, and I'm curious. I know it's getting late for you. You're over
Oh,
you're
no,
over on the East Coast.
I'll be up all night.
Um,
I work late. I have design
well,
work to do.
I'm curious because you had talked about you doing this video kind of debunking. So, um, where can do you guys have a you mentioned Instagram? Do you guys have a YouTube channel where you post these videos?
So we have a YouTube, yes. We don't have much on there right now.
Okay.
Um, you can find this stuff on our Facebook.
Okay.
I think you can find it on our Instagram as well. But yes, we do have a YouTube, um, and that channel is going to grow over the course of this year. As we move and get settled into our new space, we're going to have a studio set up, and our marketing team will, as they can settle and get things done, because they're working on user manuals right now and videos on how to use
Okay.
our products, so that people can just go online and be like, okay, how do I use this? What are all the features? How does it function? And have a visual aid on that, and basically visual instructional. Um, but we're gonna do episodes and stuff like that, and
Oh, okay.
on things like that. So eventually we'll grow that and expand it. We're just really early in that, and we have
Excuse
a
me.
lot of other things going on.
Okay. Well, I know you're working late. My wife poked her head in. I think
Oh, no.
dinner's ready, and she's calling me. But so you mentioned Instagram, you'd mentioned Facebook and YouTube. You guys are gonna be doing more content. What else? Where else can people find more about Nocturne Industries?
So there's a lot of articles on the Firearm blog. Nick
Okay.
Chen unfortunately doesn't write for them anymore, so you can go on VF1 Systems, and I think he has all of his articles cataloged there. I don't know for sure. Um, if that's 100% true, but I know he's
Mhm.
going to continue to do articles there. So you can see
Okay.
more content as he does reviews. And then others, the Inline Defensive, others on YouTube. Just search Nocturne Industries, Manticore, Katana, Tonto, Daisho, Chimera. Those are all the hot
Yeah.
terms that you can search. You can go on our website. Um, and you can go on Reddit. People do reviews. There's a Reddit page
Oh, cool.
dedicated to Nocturne and a couple of our products. We do have the Nocturne Industries official users group on Facebook, but not many people engage on there. That was created so that people can go and engage and talk to each other, and then we can
Okay.
go and answer. But most of the time, people go on a Facebook page that we created, but we have some other moderators that kind of run it, admins that run it for us.
Sure.
Um, it's the Night Vision Users Group 2.0.
Okay.
There's I think over 20,000 members there.
Mm.
And there's lots of information for all different kinds of night vision there. But that's where you get into the weeds of a lot of good information and a lot of bad information, a lot of
Sure.
arguments and stuff. But if people want to be involved and be part of it, or just want to be a fly on the wall and watch, that's a good place to go to for raw content.
Okay. Well, Jeff, man, I appreciate your time, and I know I went much longer than I told you I would go, so I apologize for that. But I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I learned way more about night vision than I thought I would. I thought we were going to be talking more about the business, and I told Jeff before this started that we kind of just digress. This whole thing is a giant digression and us going all over the place, but. I really enjoyed your time, man, and learning more about you and learning more about Nocturne and learning more about night vision as someone that I feel like is a novice in this world. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, of course. If you want to do this again, we can. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a technical guy, so and everybody that knows me, I always ramble and go on and digress and get into
No,
all
it's
this
fine.
other stuff. And if you let me go, I'll go for hours. I just care
Well,
about this stuff. I'm passionate
yeah.
about it.
I always love having guests on, and it's always fun finding folks that want to be on and talk more. So absolutely, we could do another episode, and would love to chew your off a little bit more.
Yeah, and we could talk about the business side too. You know, where we started, how we got here, why we're developing the products we are, and any tips we can give on
Okay.
success and stuff. Like we're first time here too, so
Yeah.
we're learning as we go.
Yeah. Fun. Awesome, man. Well, hey, for everyone that's watching and listening, we appreciate you guys being here, and we will catch you on the next episode. Adios.